Ted DiBiase did announce that the $1 million belt is going to be making a return to WWE. It's been announced that at TakeOver, Cameron Grimes and LA Knight are going to fight for the title in a ladder match. What do you make of the belt coming back, Finn? How prestigious did you find it in the 90s when it was actually around before, if at all? And what are the chances of its success coming back now?
Well, I found it to be a bit of an annoyance back in whenever it was invented. Was it 1990 that it was introduced? It was around about then, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, because DiBiase couldn't win the world title, so he ended up creating his own world title.
Yeah, I mean, they made a big production out of it at the time, and supposedly they got this, top jeweler to make it. And I remember they filmed like a segment of him there, taking receipt of the belt. And to me, it was like an acknowledgement or an admission by Ted DiBiase that he couldn't win the big one, that he was no longer a main eventer and he was now a mid-carder, or upper mid-carder, which is precisely what he was. And I suppose it was a useful prop for furthering feuds, whether it was with, the big boss man or, of course, Virgil, the classic Kenny. I know it was one of your favourites, the Virgil Ted DiBiase.
He got a great pop at SummerSlam 91, to give him credit. He did get a monster pop when he won that belt.
Didn't he just? And it just sort of conveys how brilliant Ted DiBiase was, that he was able to get Virgil over. And people were so happy to see Virgil win that match and win the belt. And I think Roddy Piper was on commentary there, wasn't he? I think he got really, I think we could say he got emotionally invested in that match.
He got G'd up. Yeah, so he got very, very...
Yeah, so I always remember that. I mean, it was a pretty amazing call by Piper. I think was quite effective as a commentator that year. I think he did some really good stuff, and that was very memorable. Of course, as soon as the Virgil DiBiase feud was over, Virgil sort of returned to his natural level at the foot of the card, didn't he? But I suppose it was a useful prop for getting other people over. But I just sort of thought, well, WWF doesn't really need another championship. How is this really going to be taken seriously? And I always thought, maybe DiBiase could have another run at the top and become champ. But of course, in truth, his run at the top was over. And he did have a really good run as a challenger to Randy Savage and, of course, to Hogan as well. Did some matches with the Warrior. So, I mean, really was his time to move down the card. So, I'm just completely contradicted myself now, and I'm going to say it actually was a really good invention, and I'm glad they introduced it. But yeah, now I look like a complete idiot. And that's not for the first time, is it, Kenny?
Some might say that karma's coming back to bite you for your little character assassination shot at me at the beginning of the podcast, but I'm not casting aspersions. Anyway, but no, I think that there are points to both. Like, from what you were saying, there is points to both, because with DiBiase not being able to, then go for the world title, it does kind of make him feel lesser than, and that is true. But then he also at the same time did elevate people like Virgil around it. But I think the problem with the $1 million belt was, once he's not involved, it kind of makes no sense that it's around. Like,
yes,
it's his belt. It's the $1 million belt. So, if once he loses it, unless you're going to keep feuding with him, it just kind of loses its luster. And then we saw that Steve Austin had a brief dalliance with it in 1996 as the ringmaster. But I mean, I feel like this is going to be a...
Penny, as soon as Ted DiBiase was sent back into WCW, Austin's career took off, didn't it?